Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tuesday Tea Time with Elsa. For those of you guys who are joining me, it is nighttime, not the middle of the day as usual, because I am in Portugal teaching a clinic this week. As most of you know, I canceled my European tour due to the COVID situation. But this place that I get to teach in Portugal is really lovely and outdoors and small groups. And it felt right to come to Portugal and do this one clinic, even though I canceled all of my bigger gatherings. There's an interesting thing about life and movement and the choices that we make that feel appropriate for the society, but also appropriate for ourselves. And for me, a certain amount of movement really facilitates learning and thinking and growing. And as I'm sure all of you are feeling, there's a lot of lockdown that's happening recently. And that's beautiful too. I love my home time. I love all the extra time I've gotten to spend with my horses. But a little bit of extra movement is good too. And I wanted to talk about movement in many forms today. Hello, Florentine. I will say hello to Sandra for you. It's been great. I'm in the back room here so that I'm avoiding the party happening out front. But I do really love getting together with small groups of people to talk about theory and ideas and how we do everything better. And, if we can do that safely in this time, I think it's good to keep fostering our growth. And yes, Oriana, I am at Sandra's place. Absolutely. I'm glad you could join us for tea time. So today it was a little bit rainy and we got to watch the horses play in the rain. And I was thinking a lot about how healthy it is for horses to move together. And when you have an external stressor like the weather, and there is some stuff that they need to process. Horses are problem solvers. So when they're problem solving for comfort, they do things like they bounce off of each other and they create a little play and extra activity to stay warm. And watching the mares gallop around their pasture today was really beautiful. And I was really thinking about how movement facilitates such good feelings after it happens. And this is a really interesting problem for me because in freedom-based training, we do most of our training in stillness, in standing still, in being relaxed, in being quiet. And this is really, really important when we train without tools because we have to keep the stress levels very low in order for everyone to feel safe. When stress levels get higher, we usually need some sort of a tool to manage this horse-human relationship in order to feel safe. But if all we do is freedom-based training, we miss out on a lot of the benefits that horses get when they move more. So the way that I have a solution for this is I keep my horses in groups. They are in herds where hopefully they make each other move. They're in situations where their friends and their herd mates create the movement that is so healthy for them. And the reason I think movement is so important to horses is I don't think they breathe right if they are still all the time. I think they need movement to start breathing deeply and using their lungs correctly and breathing in the way that they should to live the best quality of life that they can. And this is a dilemma when I choose to be so gentle that I don't facilitate movement the same way we do in more dominant training. Now, I could be more dominant, that is an option, But I've made a choice to spend more time being passive because it's interesting to me. To spend more time doing things that the horses want to do with me naturally in a low stress situation where it doesn't feel overwhelming for me or the horse. That means that, at the level that Myrna and I are at, or Cleo and I, we can do some faster work. We can do more movement. I haven't had much time to lately because I'm so focused on the stallions, but we can. The stallions and I are not really at a point in our training yet where we do very much in movement. Most of what we do is in stillness. So I wanted to talk about this because I think there's a really important balance for horses. If they don't get enough movement, they don't feel as good. And if they don't feel as good, we have a hard time tapping into those intrinsic motivators of natural good feelings. The way freedom-based training works is we are present and attentive and responsive to every time horses feel better. And when horses see that we understand them and we can be with them in a really collaborative way, in a really harmonious way when they're feeling better, they want to do more things with us. But it's hard when you like to use as little pressure as I do. It takes years to build up the kind of relationship where you can do more active movement. And horses thrive on being able to have more active movement. Oriana says, the problem comes when movement is out of fear. Today, Fred got scared and jumped the electric fence. Not on. Let's see if I can see the rest of this comment. And caught his foot on the tape, breaking it. Yeah, that is a problem. And I think a lot of times, Oriana, that movement out of fear comes from a basis where they're not getting enough movement in harmony with others. So, in a natural herd, there would be young horses that would stimulate more movement. The youngsters play more and they have more energy. And the young horses get the older horses moving in harmony together. When we have less movement in a horse's life, they tend to have more hair trigger reactions where stuff scares them and they get worried more easily. So this is a dilemma for all of us that like to live with our horses without pressure, that like to be with our horses in a way where we don't push them and we wait for them to offer things and we let the relationship grow and develop in a slow, gentle way. Sometimes that's years before there's really very much movement in the relationship. And so, if you can, I would encourage you all to think about living situations where your horses naturally move more. I find the more horses move in their natural living situation, the less reactionary they are, and the more they can communicate with us in really good, peaceful, harmonious ways. This is, for those of us who don't want to be dominant, that don't want to push, that don't want to train that way. It's not that we can't, it's that we choose not to. I think it's important that we put a little extra thought into how do we set up their life so that they can move more naturally. And watching the mares run today in the rain, I thought, isn't it wonderful that they have each other to run with? Because I can't run that fast. I could go that fast if I was riding them. But all together, they have that companionship and movement. And then when that run together is finished, they can breathe. Their lungs open up and they can get oxygen in a different way than horses that don't move. So it's just something to think about in terms of setting up your horse's living situation. I think if I didn't have a herd of horses, I would work really hard to find friends that had horses and try and put my horses in a situation where there were more of a herd situation to motivate them into movement. Because movement is really, it's the piece that I feel like is missing from freedom-based training. I am not big enough or fast enough or strong enough to keep my horses in companionship in movement until the training is very advanced. Once the training is more advanced, then we can do more movement. But working up to that point, lifestyle is important to them. And watching those mares today run and how good they felt afterwards and how much harmony there was in the herd, it made me really appreciate it and value it even more than I did yesterday. Oriana says, New Vem, 4.5, does initiate movement with both my other two, but I think the weather's been a nasty surprise. Also, Fred is recovering from an abscess. Yeah, it sounds like Fred has some reasons for stress, and the weather does impact them. I think the more movement they get before there are other stressors, whether it's health or weather or any of the things that happen in life, when you can prepare the horse to be as healthy as possible before those external stressors happen, they handle them better. So I don't have any real answers. I just have an enthusiasm for the idea. The more we can set up our horses' lives for healthy movement in harmony with others, I think the healthier they are, both physically and emotionally. If you're like me and you want to train without a lot of pressure, you have to get a little bit creative about how you set up your horse's life so that they have friends to move with. Because I find that is a key point. They have friends to move with. Your training is going to be so much easier in everything else you do. So I'm going to leave you with that thought. I'm going to go get a good night's sleep so I can teach tomorrow, and have a wonderful time thinking about how to introduce more movement in your horse's life in a healthy way. I think it makes a really big difference. I'll see you next week. Let me know if there's a topic you'd like me to speak on. I always have a list that I'm gathering, and I always like fresh ideas. Good night from Portugal.